Welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is no change without disruption. So, what we get to be aware of is that any change by its very nature is disruptive. And we can resist that, or we can harmonize with it. We can maybe harness it, but no change exists without disruption. So the question is, how do we acclimate to that disruption, and how do we channel it in ways that will further the opportunities to create the life that we want? So it should be a fun conversation. Before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your molecules, and your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light, lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, your molecules, and electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Vigorously rub your hands together to feel the friction, the temperature, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop. And allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables us to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. So good to have you here with us this morning. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. So today we're talking about change and the disruption, or even the chaos that occurs as part of change, whether that change is good or bad. It's creating upheaval. That's the very nature of change, right? Is disruption. That's foundational to its definition. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Shosha. Blessings to you, Mira, she says, and to all on this once in a lifetime, beautiful new day. Shosha, what a glorious way to welcome the day. That's a beautiful thing. This is a practice that I've adopted for myself, is to wake up in the morning and get out of bed and say, good morning, magnificent life. Good morning to this beautiful day. So thank you for helping to kick us off in that way. So we're talking today about disruption. It's interesting how we work so hard to maintain equilibrium, right? To maintain balance. The thing about balance is that it's constantly in flux. Balance is not a static state. Balance is a state of constant readjustment. And when we talk about change, those readjustments that are required are on a much grander scale, right? To be able to maneuver through change, we're often really stumbling through change, or resisting change, bracing for change, and I think that I was having a conversation yesterday with someone who was very distressed over the political environment. And we both came to a recognition that in order for true change to take place, things have to be disrupted. And sometimes they have to fall apart in order for new things to emerge. And this coincided for me yesterday with a decision to move on from the home that I've lived in for, I think it's 23 years now, which is longer than I've ever lived anywhere in my life. I used to move around a lot, but over those years, I've collected all kinds of things, and the thought of moving is exceedingly, just the thought is exceedingly disruptive, to be thinking about how to manage all the things. And I don't really know, it's not that I'm headed to a permanent place. It's kind of throwing my life up into the air to see where things fall. And it's a massive disruption in a time of cultural and global disruption. And it just made me start really thinking about this topic. And it was interesting because my initial response was fear and anxiety, and a mixture of and sadness and all kinds of things. Even though I've been yearning to move to the next phase of my life, there's this stability of the comfort of the way that things are, even when we don't like them. And I'm not saying I don't like my circumstance now, but there's a comfort to familiarity. And I remember years and years and years ago where I was in a relationship, it wasn't a good relationship, and I heard myself voice a willingness to persist in that relationship because it was familiar, even though it was uncomfortable, to essentially avoid the disruption of making a change. And I think in this moment in time, in this moment in my life, and in the lives of so many, we are contending with massive disruption, and certainly disruption on all different levels. And the question is, how do we navigate that disruption in a way that is life affirming? So it took doing some work, noticing those initial responses, noticing how I was integrating things, and developing a curiosity about what are the stories that I'm telling myself about this transition that are generating fear or generating anxiety, and how might I move into this period of disruption in a way that is empowering? And I think that this is an important question for each and every one of us. How do I navigate this period, however long it is? How do I navigate disruption? How can I cultivate my ability to flow with it rather than create additional resistance to it, and maybe dissolve resistance to it? So there are all kinds of practices that we can utilize to deal with upset and anxiety, trauma. Tapping is a wonderful, wonderful tool for those of you that are looking for some kind of self-care, self-help, self-maintenance in times of trauma, I invite you to go look at EFT. It's the tapping process where you tap on different meridians in your body, and it helps to normalize your nervous system. And you can do that with different affirmations. And I think that there's a website called the Tapping Solution that you can look to for tutorials. You can find it all over YouTube, but it's a really powerful tool for balancing, and it's a self-care tool, really powerful, beneficial self-care tool. And we know certainly that the breath holds tremendous power for creating balance in our experience and our bodies, our physiology. I think part of it is to be respectful of the things that are going on in our body and being, to be aware, to notice, oh, I'm starting to feel stressed in this moment, rather than just trying to ignore it. Maybe take that opportunity to breathe. Maybe find music that has healing rhythms. There's lots of frequency-based music, frequency-focused music out there that is calming and nourishing and enlivening for our system, for our body and being, and that can be really helpful. Movement, activity, exercise, dance, all of that can also be very helpful to help expel, I don't know if express excess energy, over energy. I know that in the past, certainly when stressed, I was a stress eater and sometimes still am, where if I'm stressed, I'll go to find some comfort food, which has effects of numbing. And lots of us go into numbing sorts of processes. And it occurs to me that if we can, instead of going into the numbing processes, allow ourselves to cultivate enlivening processes, that, and I'm speaking for myself as well. Obvious, I don't know if that's obvious, but it's obvious to me. You know, I will still find myself binging Netflix, for example, to escape. But there's in these times of disruption, what's interesting is that it's also a call to action, on lots of different levels, where we recognize particularly that there's a time frame. I don't know about you, but I notice that deadlines most often serve me. And I think there are a lot of us that sort of fit into that category, where a deadline will move us into action that we couldn't get ourselves to take previously. So Shosha says, yes, I love the YT Healing Frequency music channel, Phi Tribe. I never heard of that. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that resource, Shosha. So frequency music channel, Phi Tribe. And that's on YouTube, I guess. Beautiful. Thank you for that. So tools for transitions, I guess, is kind of the topic that we're looking at. But in addition to that, or maybe one of the foundational tenets to adopt, is releasing resistance. So I was speaking with somebody yesterday. They were talking about how they have adopted a practice called radical acceptance. And part of this radical acceptance seems to be radical presence. And what I mean by radical presence is really, in a very deliberate and conscious way, bringing ourselves back to the experience of this particular moment. In this moment, I'm okay. In this moment, whatever it is that is present for you, in this moment, I'm safe. In this moment, I can breathe. In this moment, I have sustenance. In this moment, to be present to actually the moment that we're in, because really, 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 life emerges from this moment. It is only and always this moment. We can project into the future. We can worry. We can ruminate about the past. We can create regret or loss or sorrow or whatever, going backwards or going forwards. But in fact, all there is right here, right now. That's all there is. And the rest of it is illusion that we create through the stories we tell. We imagine a future. It doesn't mean that that future is going to evolve in the way that we imagine it. There's comfort sometimes in imagining the future, although many of us use it for worry. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. It's kind of like, how do you hold that? Talk about resistance, creating that incredible resistance. But we can be alert to the moment and take action that's appropriate. And maybe that's the action of preparation. I think we also get to prepare for the best. And maybe that's anticipating or caring for ourselves along the way in the process of disruption and change. And part of caring for ourselves is being alert to the experience that we're having in relationship to that change. And notice, oh, wow, I'm feeling afraid. Okay, so what are the messages? What is the information I'm providing for myself that is catalyzing those emotions? So this person that I've referenced this morning was feeling very, like a number of us have been, I think, feeling fearful and worried about what's going to happen and all the negative news that leads in media, all the information about the chaos that's happening, and not finding counterbalancing information that offers substantive hope, that offers grounded hope in actions that are positive in the world, things that are occurring that are positive in terms of opening new possibility. Structures, whether it be the structure of our daily lives, whether it be our routines, whether it be political structures, in order to have true change, they need to dissolve. They need the patterns need to be disrupted. And disruption is disorienting by definition. By definition, because when we're disoriented, it makes us recalibrate our direction. It makes us reassess, oftentimes reassess our values. Maybe it wakes us up to our values. Maybe it calls us to reach out for support, to find connection, to I'm going to just stop there and talk about this notion of support. Because in times of disruption, some people feel like it's everyone for themselves. But if we think a little bit more deeply, it's in times of disruption that we need community and connection more than ever. We need support more than ever. And it's through the interpersonal connection and support that humans shine most brightly, I think. If we think of natural disasters or where whole communities are disrupted, what happens is people band together in times of emergency. And there's a lot to be said for the potentials of that gathering together. So while disruption can be fractionating, while it can pull people apart, it can also be something that is a mechanism of or a catalyst for connection. And I think that's one of the most important elements in moving through periods of disruption is supporting one another. When we look at what's going on climate-wise, the solutions are local. There's so much conversation about the importance of localized solutions. And even in the political sphere, while there may be federal things happening, the states have their powers too. And that's a more local kind of solution. And then we have local government that gives us local solutions as well and gives us a place of impact. So when we're in times of disruption, there may be a great tendency to fight or stand for the status quo. And the invitation here is to look at the possibilities, to create a new context for emergence, and to be present to what's possible rather than the doom and gloom sorts of scenarios that race to destruction and devastation. How about if we look at, well, what's possible now? What, oh, my voice, interesting. What doors or windows are opening now? What vistas are opening now that weren't before available? And in disruption, even when we're cleaning the house, think about it. In order for the house to get clean, we take things out of the corners and expose the dust, right? And clear things out. on a deep level. And this kind of thing, this upheaval and disruption, is not by its nature negative. It's what we do with it. So it's a call to action for all of us to be able to move with the energy to then redirect it and create possibility and potential out of out of what may look like chaos. So that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I invite you to please like, follow, and share Enlightened World Network and me. The links are in the description. And as always, it's an incredible pleasure and privilege to share these morning musings together with you. And I'm so grateful. Until next time, so much love.